There's a ship right here beside me. It's called the Blue Nose, and I want to tell you a little bit about it because it's got some wonderful history that brings great joy to our church fellowship. The history of this ship is that it had three purposes. Its main purpose was to be a fishing vessel. It was created actually 100 years ago. It was launched in March of 1921, and it entered its first race in October of 1921. It was an international race of Canadians and Americans, and it won 17 competitions in a row, 17 years in a row. And so in 1936, it was put on the back of the dime, and so it became an icon for the coin of the 10 cents. It also had a second purpose, so that fishing was its first purpose. The second purpose was that it was a racing vessel. And so not only was it created to fish, but it also became this amazing racing vessel. And then in the off-season, it was a tourism vessel where people just experienced the joy of the Lord when they got on this incredible ship and experienced the joy and freedom. So it was a blessing in that it was a racing vehicle, a provision in that it was a fishing vehicle, and then freedom in that it was an off-season tourism vehicle. So it became famous in 1937 with the Canadian Mint, but it became famous in our church in the year 2000. In the year 2000, we had our second conference with John Paul Jackson, and it was actually at that conference down at the Silver Fox Yacht Club that we had a $14,000 budget, and we were $7,000 short on the last offering. And so I walked around the Silver Fox 7 different times, and I was kind of shouting out to God for provision. And he asked me to be quiet and to look down when I wanted to look up. And he said, no, look down. And there at my feet was this dime. And so the Lord asked me, so how much are you going to put in the offering tonight? So I picked it up, and I reached into my other pocket, and I had a dime and a penny, and I put that dime and my penny in my hand, and I said 21. And he said, are you 21? And I said 21. And I said $2.10, and the Lord said, would that be a sacrifice? And I said no. He said, then I said, well, how about $21? And he said, would that be a sacrifice? And I said no. And I thought, oh gosh, $210. And he said, would that be a sacrifice? I said, oh yeah, $210 would be a sacrifice. He said, as you sacrifice tonight, so your people will sacrifice, the people that have come for this conference. And that night, yes, sure enough, right down to the dime, one guy came up to me and gave me, we were $400 short, gave me his $360 paycheck. Another guy came and gave me two 20s. Right down to the last dime, the money was paid. The following year, I'd collected 38 dimes between 2000 and 2001. We had Tony Morton, we had John Paul Jackson back, and we had Robin Mark from Ireland. And that year, we had a budget of $45,000, and we were short again $7,000 for the last offering. And I took all 38 dimes and I put them on the offering plate, and that year the money came in. The following year we went to Newfoundland, and I had 88 dimes that I'd collected throughout the year, and I put them underneath seats. They asked me to do an offering thought, and I put the 88 dimes underneath all the seats in the conference hall that they had in Newfoundland. And it was just like Easter Sunday, when kids are looking for Easter eggs. I said, There's 88 dimes underneath the chairs of this conference site that we're having this, and go. And all of a sudden, these 600 people started scrambling, adults scrambling underneath the chairs, looking for their dime. And it was just so much fun, so much joy that came into that conference. Ever since, people have been finding dimes. And if you find a dime, it means blessing, provision, or freedom. Blessing for the racing vehicle, provision for a fishing vehicle, and freedom for tourism. And so people are continuing to find dimes. I'll just finish with this last story. It was probably 15 years ago, and we were at the Harborfront Theater, and I just finished teaching, and I was putting my stuff together in my briefcase, and I looked down on the floor, and there was this dime. And I thought, oh, it's always a kiss from heaven. Simple version, kiss from heaven. Blessing, provision, freedom. And I thought, oh, this is so sweet. Picked it up. The dime was 1902. What is very interesting about not only finding a dime of great antiquity was that I spoke about my grandma that morning. And that particular morning, I was speaking about the blessing of my grandma. She's the one who prayed me into the kingdom of God. And so as I was telling that story about my grandma, I phoned home to my dad that afternoon, and I said, Dad, I told this story about Grandma and how she had prayed for me, and he said, "Oh, that's interesting, son, because your grandma was born in 1902." Just another little kiss from heaven. So if you find a dime, people are still finding them. In fact, when I was doing my preparation for this dime story, I found a dime in my office and people think, oh, it's kind of childish, it's kind of silly. I think it's childlike. I think it's very childlike. The Lord loves to be playful.